Prince Harry mocked after William's unexpected move, shuts him down. It's the headline that has taken over global media, sparking debates, memes, and a new chapter in the ongoing royal rivalry saga. Just when Prince Harry was poised to reclaim public attention with his latest advocacy campaign, his elder brother Prince William executed a move so precise and unexpected that it not only undercut Harry's momentum, but reshaped the narrative entirely. Harry, who had been gearing up for a high-profile media push surrounding his environmental and mental health initiatives, was blindsided. He had planned a series of media appearances, including interviews and digital content drops, designed to reframe his image as a global humanitarian voice independent of royal protocols. But before the first wave of his campaign could even land, William orchestrated a powerful counter-narrative, a surprise visit to a major global summit on climate leadership, where he announced a landmark, royal-backed sustainability fund, collaborating with international leaders and corporations. The announcement wasn't leaked, it wasn't teased. It was a silent strike executed with surgical precision. The result, media headlines instantly shifted. Outlets that had been prepping Harry-centric stories pivoted to focus on William's poised diplomacy. The narrative framed William as the future king leading through action, while Harry's parallel efforts were quietly overshadowed. But the real blow came from the public reaction. Social media exploded with commentary, memes, and viral threads, comparing the two brothers. Images of William calmly addressing world leaders were juxtaposed against Harry's previous media appearances clips, where Harry, passionate but often emotional, had been framed as combative and reactionary. One viral meme encapsulated the public sentiment, while Harry podcasts William leads. Commentators began to dissect the timing. Was this a deliberate move by William to reclaim narrative control? Or had the royal family's strategic machinery decided it was time to remind the world who holds true institutional power? For Harry, the blow was double-edged. Not only had his campaign been strategically neutralized, but the silence from Buckingham Palace amplified the optics. The firm didn't need to issue statements or engage in public rebuttals. William's presence on the global stage spoke louder than any official press release. And as media outlets celebrated William's statesmanship, Harry found himself battling a narrative spiral he couldn't control. His upcoming interviews were now framed within the context of catching up rather than leading. His initiatives, once positioned as bold and disruptive, were now seen as reactive, even desperate. It was a masterstroke of narrative strategy. William's move wasn't loud, it wasn't flamboyant, but it was calculated. A silent, dignified maneuver that left Harry looking like a sidelined rebel, struggling to find relevance in a game the firm still orchestrates. And as the media narrative swelled in William's favor, Harry's allies scrambled to regain footing. But the question now loomed, had William's silent strike exposed the fragile core of Harry's media-driven crusade? In the aftermath of Prince William's unexpected move, the ripple effects on Prince Harry's media strategy were swift and brutal. What was meant to be Harry's moment, a meticulously planned campaign to reframe his public image, was now reduced to a side note overshadowed by William's quiet yet commanding presence on the global stage. Harry's recent media efforts had been designed to amplify his personal advocacy. His upcoming documentary series on mental health and environmental activism was set to launch with a wave of interviews, social media initiatives, and high-profile collaborations. His team had been working tirelessly to position him as a thought leader, independent of royal influence, a modern voice for causes he deeply cared about. But William's surprise appearance at the Global Climate Leadership Summit changed everything. While Harry's media appearances focused on personal narratives and grassroots stories, William's intervention brought in heavyweight alliances, governments, multinational corporations, and respected environmental bodies. It wasn't just the content of William's announcement that struck a chord, it was the institutional weight behind it. Suddenly, media outlets shifted their framing. Articles that had been slated to highlight Harry's bold activism were now running headlines such as Prince William steps up with Global Sustainability Fund, a masterclass in royal diplomacy. The juxtaposition couldn't have been starker. Harry's emotionally driven, media-centric approach began to be portrayed as self-serving and personal, while William's move was elevated as statesmanship in its purest form. Social media was ruthless. Comment threads were filled with biting comparisons. Harry talks, William acts. One brother seeks headlines, the other earns respect. William just showed Harry what real influence looks like. Memes exploded across platforms, painting Harry as the forgotten prince grasping for relevance, while William was depicted as the composed future king, quietly leading by example. The royal family, true to form, maintained absolute silence. No official statements, no clarifications. Their strategic refusal to engage spoke volumes. In the absence of commentary, the media filled the vacuum with narratives that painted William as the steady hand of the monarchy and Harry as the reactive outsider. For Harry's team, the blow was devastating. Despite months of preparation, they now found themselves in a narrative war they hadn't anticipated, and worse, they were losing. Internal reports suggested that Harry's advisors were scrambling to pivot his campaign messaging, but the damage was already done. Every appearance Harry made now carried an undertone of comparison. His advocacy was no longer judged on its merits, but against the backdrop of William's institutional gravitas. And the palace's silent strategy was proving to be far more potent than any media rebuttal. But as Harry's team rushed to salvage momentum, insiders revealed that William's move wasn't spontaneous. It was a calculated masterstroke, orchestrated by the firm to remind Harry and the world where true influence resides. As the media frenzy continued to build the narrative surrounding Prince Harry took an unexpected and humiliating turn. What began as a strategic misstep now morphed into a public perception crisis, fueled by a relentless wave of mockery that Harry and his team seemed powerless to contain. For years, Harry had positioned himself as the rebellious royal, unafraid to challenge tradition and speak his truth. His emotional candor, once seen as refreshing and brave, was now being reframed as erratic and self-serving. Meanwhile, William's composed and calculated move at the Global Climate Leadership Summit had struck a chord with both media and the public, re-establishing him as the embodiment of royal duty and gravitas. The internet was merciless. A video compilation titled "Prince William Leads, Prince Harry Pleads" went viral, contrasting William's poised summit speech with Harry's past media outbursts, highlighting moments where Harry appeared flustered, combative, or overly emotional. The video garnered millions of views within hours, cementing a public image of Harry as the forgotten prince desperately chasing relevance. Memes flooded social media. A split image of William shaking hands with global leaders, captioned influence juxtaposed with Harry on a podcast captioned influencer. Satirical clips mocking Harry's media appearances as therapy sessions disguised as activism. Viral hashtags like #SilentWinsWilliam and #HarryLeftInRed dominated Twitter trends. But the most damaging element wasn't the memes, it was the silence from Buckingham Palace. In previous controversies, the royal family had been accused of orchestrating smear campaigns through leaks and briefings. But this time, the firm didn't need to lift a finger. William's strategic appearance had spoken louder than any press release, allowing the public to draw their own conclusions. The absence of a palace rebuttal made Harry's plight seem even more isolated, a prince battling ghosts no one else was addressing. Even Harry's staunchest media allies began shifting tone. Journalists who had once championed his narrative now penned op-eds questioning his strategic blind spots. One commentator wrote, "Harry is fighting a media war with emotion while William is playing chess with silence." The perception flip was brutal. Harry's attempts to reclaim control through heartfelt interviews and advocacy partnerships were now interpreted as reactive, even desperate. His latest documentary announcement was met not with anticipation, but skepticism. The media no longer framed him as the bold truth-teller. They saw a prince outmaneuvered, outclassed, and out of sync with the narrative game. And William, he didn't need to say a word. His presence at the summit, followed by his strategic retreat into royal duties, amplified his image as the steady hand of monarchy, a leader who acts, not reacts. It became clear Harry's mastery of media-driven narrative was faltering in the face of William's institutional endurance. And then came the killer blow, a viral clip of a royal correspondent declaring, "The future king doesn't need to shout. He simply moves and the world adjusts." As the clip racked up millions of views, Harry's image as the outspoken rebel was being redefined not as bold, but as sidelined. As Prince Harry's media narrative continued to unravel, the royal family's most devastating move came not through words, but through global recognition that decisively shifted the power dynamic. In a calculated masterstroke, Prince William was announced as the recipient of a prestigious Global Environmental Leadership Award, an accolade presented by a coalition of international organizations and governments for his groundbreaking sustainability initiatives. The timing was surgical. Harry had been preparing to headline a major panel on mental health advocacy, expecting the media spotlight to swing back in his favor. But the announcement of William's award, paired with his upcoming keynote at the World Environmental Forum, obliterated any chance of reclaiming the narrative. Within hours, media coverage of Harry's event was buried beneath headlines praising William's visionary leadership and his commitment to global stewardship. The press wasn't subtle. William earns global praise as future king of sustainability. Harry's advocacy drowned out by William's silent diplomacy. For Harry, the blow was not just reputational, it was strategic. The firm's decision to thrust William into the global spotlight, aligning him with causes Harry had long championed, effectively erased the public distinction Harry had fought to carve out. And the public noticed. Social media reaction was merciless. Viral tweets mocked Harry's media ventures as influencer side gigs, while William's growing portfolio of international collaborations was lauded as statesmanship in its purest form. The narrative was no longer about two royal brothers forging different paths. It was about one leading through the quiet action and the other floundering for attention. Behind closed doors, sources revealed that Harry's inner circle was in a state of crisis. Plans to launch a new docuseries on grassroots activism were being reevaluated, with concerns that any release would now be overshadowed by comparisons to William's global initiatives. Harry's team had anticipated resistance from the British press, but they hadn't accounted for this level of global endorsement for William, which reframed the entire dynamic. Even media outlets sympathetic to Harry began pivoting their tone. Analysts described the shift as narrative suffocation, where no matter how passionately Harry spoke, his words were being drowned out by the weight of William's institutional backing and public acclaim. Adding to the humiliation was the palace's continued silence. The firm didn't need to issue statements or defend their strategy. William's dignified presence, amplified by external validation, did all the heavy lifting. The monarchy had mastered the art of countering Harry's media offensives with strategic invisibility, letting public perception do the rest. The climax of the narrative shift was stark. Harry's brand, once defined by his bold truth-telling and emotional candor, was now being recast as reactive and self-serving, while William's stoic, methodical approach was celebrated as the epitome of modern royal leadership. The public conversation wasn't just about who was more popular, it was about who had the real influence. And in this chess game of narrative control, William had just checkmated his brother without uttering a single word. And as the next royal event looms, insiders whisper of another calculated move by the firm, one that could permanently cement William's image as the global statesman, leaving Harry to decide fight back louder or risk fading into irrelevance. Prince Harry's journey from royal rebel to media maverick was once seen as a blueprint for breaking free from institutional control, but after Prince William's meticulously timed countermove, backed not by words, but by global recognition, Harry's narrative has never been more fragile. The silence from the firm was never passive. It was a deliberate strategy, a waiting game. While Harry spoke in interviews, produced documentaries, and pushed his causes through emotionally charged narratives, William stayed in the shadows, making strategic moves that would redefine the very game Harry thought he was winning. The Global Environmental Leadership Award wasn't just an accolade, it was a narrative reset. With that single event, William positioned himself as the global statesman, the calm force of royal duty steering the monarchy into modern relevance. Harry, by contrast, found his media-driven crusade reframed as a series of reactive plays, lacking the institutional gravitas his brothers so effortlessly commanded. The public now sees two brothers not as equals on divergent paths, but as opposites on a battlefield where perception is everything. William, the reluctant enforcer, commanding respect through strategic patience. Harry, the displaced rebel whose attempts to outpace the monarchy's shadow seem increasingly desperate. But the deeper question lingers. Was Harry's sidelining inevitable? In a world where institutions like the firm play the long game, or did his own approach, reliant on media visibility and emotional narratives, set him up for this quiet dismantling? The battle lines are now drawn not within the family, but within public opinion. For some, Harry remains the brave truth-teller, a man who dared to break away and speak against entrenched power structures, now facing an orchestrated campaign to erase his influence. For others, William's silent resilience proves that true leadership doesn't clamor for attention. It commands it. Is Prince Harry a victim of the firm's calculated narrative suffocation, bravely trying to own his story? Hashtag Team Harry Truth, or has Prince William's strategic patience rightfully reestablished who truly carries the weight of influence? Add Team William Strategic.